Okay, so we're going to turn to our practice for today. And it so happens that today is day 28 of that Omer period, the 49 days of the Omer. We're in day 28, which means we're in the final day of the fourth week. We're in the seventh day of the fourth week. For those of you who are familiar with the themes of the Omer, um, you'll know, and if you're not familiar, you will now know that the fourth week of the Omer is guided by the Sphira, the divine emanation that is on the chart of the sacred tree of life in Kabbalistic tradition. It's associated with the quality of Netzach, which literally means victory or endurance. Um, and it really is a sphera. It is a divine quality. I like to think of it as in terms of a facet of divine energy, a pool of divine energy in the larger flow of divine energy that we associate with um, uh, that which generates our actions. That is kind of the accelerator pedal that we are equipped with, that we're factory equipped with, the energy to do, to manifest, to produce, to create, to move things forward, to improve, etc. Netzach is that rushing energy that is available over the course of our lives, in the course of our day. As we all know, energy comes and goes, it ebbs and flows. But we can become cognizant of that constant availability of energy. Sometimes the battery runs low, sometimes the battery is fully charged, but we can be cognizant of the presence of that energy within us and its availability to enable us to do, to manifest, as I said, to produce or create. That's kind of the Netzach energy. So we're in that week of Netzach. For those of you who've been participating in our awareness and action program for the Omer, we're associating that energy with the Midah, the specific sacred trait of Zirizut, which we've translated as energetic action or energetic response. So one way of thinking about that is that Zirizut is a subset of the larger category of Netzach energy. Zirizut energy, which is the energy to initiate an action, and it's also the energy to persist in that action or to pick it up again, maybe to follow through, to keep going, etc. So it's both sprint energy and marathon energy over time. So that's the theme. That's been the theme of this week, and this is the last day of that week. So that's one piece that is going to be the foundation for our practice today in a moment. I like to think about these different weeks of the Omer in water terms as a journey down a river. And the week of Netzach, the week of Zirizut, is a week that is characterized by water that is rushing, maybe white water or rapids, energetic movement of water. Tonight, we will begin the next week of the Omer, which is associated with the Sphira of Hod, and it's a corresponding Sphira. Netzach energy is that accelerator pedal. Hod energy is the brake. Or in water terms, Netzach energy is that rushing water, and Hod energy is still water, completely still water, which is going nowhere. It's just completely still. The surface of the water is flat and reflective. We've all seen water like this where you can almost not tell where the sky is and where the water is because the water is reflecting the sky so perfectly. When we're sitting in that kind of water on a still lake or a pond, and there's no breeze, we're not going anywhere. We're just we're aided in the ability to notice that within us, we also have that ability to be still. There is both a stillness and a restlessness, both that live within us. So we're coming to the end of the week of that kind of restless energy, which is not a bad thing. It's meant to be used for sacred ends, that restless energy. Sometimes like to call it spilkus energy for those who are who like that flavor of Jewish tradition. Um, that sense of there's something that needs to get done. Um, and so that energy is there. It's not a bad thing that's available, but we also have the capacity just to be with things as they are. And in a way, we practice that every day on the daily sit. We just let go of doing, we turn things off, and we just sit and don't go anywhere and don't do anything. That's the Hod energy. So we're at that juncture where we're moving from that energy, where it's as if we're coming through the rapids and we're emerging into a completely still lake and coming to a rest. Um, so that's the larger picture. Today is day 7 of the week of Netzach, which is, and number 7 is associated with the sphere of Malchut, sovereignty. It's the last or the lowest of the 7 lower sphirot qualities. And that represents literally, it means nobility, sovereignty, kind of royalty. So it's associated with the sense of dignity, um, but it also represents the mouth of the river that we are flowing through, where that channels out through us in some way. So today we're going to practice Malchut Shebenetzach, that is nobility in that energy. And we're going to take a little river journey together today. We're going to move from that white water part of our river of the Omer, and we're going to land back at the end in the still waters of Hod. So I'm looking forward to this together. So let's all get into our raft and take our seats. You want to readjust yourself. And again, I'm really encouraging people to let go of anything that might be distracting for you right now. And we're going to start with Malchut, with nobility. Really honor it. It's a place of kavod, of honoring ourselves, honoring our body, honoring our lives, honoring our beings. However you're feeling about yourself, I'm going to give yourself some respect right now. So see if you were to give yourself respect, what position would your body be in right now? If you're honoring yourself, each of us can come to our own answer to that question. For some of us, it might be to press the crown of the head up toward the sky, or as my mother might say, sit up straight, good posture. Let your spine do its thing as best it can. And anchor yourself on the floor, ground yourself. Imagine your seat as a throne. You're sitting on the throne. So happens we have a royal visitor here in the United States. But today, each of us occupies the royal throne of Malchut, day 7 of week 4. We'll see if you can bring some honor to your body. Honor your feelings, whatever your feelings are today, whatever your emotions are, honor them all. Welcome them in and give them some due kavod, some honor. Whatever the state of your mind, honor that. And honor your own spirit, your own neshama. Just take a moment to remember that you are created in the image of the divine, and no one can take that from you. This is Malchut. And now we're going to spend a little bit of time noticing that accumulated Netzach energy rushing through our bodies. See if you can just notice energy, the energy that generates sensations in your body. You might feel your circulatory system pulsing, you might feel your heart beating, you might feel your nervous system and the synapses firing away. Noticing temperature, noticing texture. Noticing thoughts being generated by the mind, neurons firing. This is all Netzach energy. See where your battery is today. And even if it's between 0 and 10, there's something there. Noticing the energy just as it is at this stage of your day and this stage of your life. And we're going to spend about 4 minutes or so. I'm going to play the sound of Netzach energy, of that rushing water, and see if that helps you tap into the rushing water that's within you, the Netzach energy within you. Whatever the state of your body or whatever the state of your energy right now, whatever the level of the stream in your life, see if you can just find some resonance with that sound. Noticing the sound of the stream and noticing the sensation of that stream within you. And transitioning from that rushing energy, whether you could experience the sound or maybe experience a sense of vibration in your body, feeling energy coursing through your body, activating the mind, energy, fueling emotions, insights, awareness. And we're shifting from that energy into the energy of Hod, that still water, Mei Menuchot, that we are always led beside and that always exists also within us. So see if you can hold both from this position of dignity and honor as we emerge from the flume ride of energy, the rushing waters, and it spills us out into a lake that is completely still. And just notice that the sensation of moving from motion to stillness, to rest, and just letting that momentum carry us into the lake of stillness. We'll spend the last 6 minutes or so of our set savoring the quiet and the stillness of the body of water, the surface of which is completely still and clear and reflective. And we're not going anywhere. We're just sitting here together on the lake, savoring the quiet and being still together. the last few minutes as we sit together on this still lake together. Let's just remember to keep breathing, letting the breath arrive and leave us. And see if we can do that in a way that's consonant with the stillness. With as little effort as possible, just allowing the breath to come and go. We don't need to use our netzach energy to draw a breath or to expel a breath, just letting it come and go quietly, peacefully. In stillness. And if it's comfortable for you to still your heart by putting a hand over that heart space, just to bring a little extra support and stillness to your body, supported in stillness as we ride into Hod. I invite you to do that. Just exploring, what does it feel like to access that sacred capacity for stillness, for not doing, for not speaking, for not reacting, just being with things as they are right now. Maybe a little bit of gratitude bubbles up from the deep. Maybe there's a sense of fullness with things as they are. Or maybe not. Whatever it is, we just savor the stillness for a few more moments. Maybe a little smile as we come back together as a group. Stretch if you like. Open your eyes if they've been closed. Good to be with you all. Let's close by acknowledging the presence of grief and mourning. Any of you who are reciting Kaddish because of a recent loss and you're in mourning, or if you're observing a yard site at this time, or if it's your custom to join, it's welcome to join in the mourner's Kaddish. And if you're not, as always, want to invite you to please stay present to support those who are. And if you're joining me for Kaddish, please rise in body or in spirit as you're able. And you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Yitgadash, Shemei Rabbi.
Yitgadash Shemei Rabbi, V'yamod Yisroch V'yamechma,
Yomechon,
V'yachon Yomechon V'chayet V'yifar V'yismach,
Ach,
V'yishmam
Yushtabach,
V'yisnaseh V'yisadar Shemei
Kaman,
Yisrael Shemei
V'yiseh,
Yishechu,
Dar v'taleh v'talal shemei dekudsham barihu.
Hashem Osodam
Kol birchata
Elam,
v'shirata.
Birchata,
Yehi Shlomo Rabbi Min
V'shirata,
Shemayim V'chaim
Bechata,
Tovim
V'nechemata,
Nechemata.
V'amiran Ba'alma,
V'Osh
V'imru,
Shlomo
Rabba mishamayim.
Rabba
V'Yakol
Mishamaya,
Kol
Yisrael
Yisrael.
Aleinu, V'al Kol
V'Yakol
Yisrael,
Se shalom
Amen.
v'tama v'huya se shalom.
Shalom V'Marma,
Leinu v'al kol
V'yaseh
Yisrael.
Shalom,
V'al kol
Aleinu, V'al Kol
Yishmayim.
Yisrael,
V'al kol
V'al Kol
Yoshvei
Yoshvei
Tevel.
Tevel, V'imru.
Imru. Amen.
Amen.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today for today's sit. And if you're leaving now, I want to encourage you to join us tomorrow We'll be joined tomorrow by Rabbi Sam Feinsmith. He'll be leading us into Shabbat, to sit together into Shabbat, as is our custom on Fridays. And we'll begin the new week of Hod with Rabbi Sam. And I'm happy to stay on to respond to any questions you have about any of the teaching we offered at the beginning, or any to share reflections. And Gail, I see your hand. Unfortunately, I can only just respond in the chat. So if you have a question or a comment or a reflection, the chat is open. Thank you, folks, for the lovely appreciation. And happy again to uh, happy to respond to your questions or any reflections you want to share. I want to thank, of course, Harry Gilboa, as always, for holding our text space beautifully. And for those who would like to continue to sit with the Netzach energy, I'm going to share, I'm sure it's very easy to find water sound effects, but that's a YouTube video of forest stream, if you'd like to sit somewhere with Netzach energy before we move into the Hod week. Susan's asking, can we understand Malchut, Shekhinah, human nobility, as Gadlut HaAdam? Thinking of Rabbi Jordan's sharing of this concept on Zerizut. Yes, exactly. Um, Gadlut HaAdam, the greatness of human beings, human greatness, human nobility, um, as I think Rabbi Jordan connects it with Zerizut in the sense that we're endowed with this energy, and among beings seem to be the ones who are endowed with consciousness of our energy and the choice of how to use it. So, of course, energy can be used for very unproductive and destructive ends, or for sacred ends. And that's part of the practice. The Midot practice is to identify how and when to employ that Zerizut energy in service of that which is ennobling. So that's the theme for today of Malchut Shebe Netzach. Let's see if there's other questions. What kinds of water do we associate with the first sphere? Thank you, Pauline. One of my favorite topics. So as I said at the get-go, it's helpful for me as a water person. I'm a Cancer, June birthday, very much drawn to water and water metaphors. So Chesed, I associate with ocean, and sometimes describe it as ocean awareness, infinite, deep, broad, beyond measure, unfathomable water, water that is everywhere, and that is representative of Chesed as loving connection, as unbroken connection, inseparability. In other words, loving oneness, loving awareness. And Gevura, I like to think about as channeled, that water that is channeled in some way, or sometimes as a wave. People may have heard me offer this idea of ocean and wave. So Chesed would be ocean, and Gevura, the next sphera, would be wave, water that takes a particular form. So Gevura represents, as we describe it, wise boundaries, but really separateness, differentiation, the parts of the whole. Chesed is the whole, Gevura is the parts, and then Tiferet, which is, we've got Chesed up here, Gevura here, and then below them in the middle, Tiferet, which is the heart-centered sphera, which we associate with the midah of anava, of balanced self. Sometimes it's associated with rachamim, with compassion, which is differentiated from chesed because it passes through gevura. So it includes judgment and discernment and differentiation. or sometimes it's associated with emet, with truth. So in water terms, that would be a wave that knows it is also water at the same time, or a separate human being that knows that we are also part of an infinitely larger self, something larger than ourselves, something beyond ourselves. And then we move into the rushing water of Netzach, and then we move into the still waters of Hod, where we're not going anywhere. And then all of that energy, all of those waters flow down through Yesod and into Malchut. And that's kind of the river delta, goes back out into the ocean, and we start the water cycle all over again. So that's how I like to think about it. And the first time I did that, I just found that incredibly viscerally powerful, to take that ride down the water, down the river, and to notice that all those different qualities of water live within us, and to understand those as aspects of God, aspects of the divine, that are always available to us. And they coexist at the same time, even though, as we can see, they seem sometimes totally contradictory. Like, what does a perfectly still lake have to do with class 3 whitewater rapids? But they all stem and they all flow from the headwaters of Chesed, and everything ultimately is in service of the waters of Chesed. Um, so that's our little overview of the river of the Omer. Okay, Sarah's asking, let's see, you indicated that in our sit we do nothing, but aren't we changed in the absence of our activity, which is surely something? That's a great question, Sarah. Um, when we're doing nothing, isn't something happening? Um, yes, it is. It is. Change is constant. Change is that unfolding is always happening. So that's a beautiful observation. And I guess it also, we can relate that to the water as well, because although we may think, oh, this water is completely still, this lake is completely still, actually, there's still movement and change that's happening. The temperature of the water is changing. There are currents that are imperceptible to us, but are real, that are happening. We might be, in fact, drifting a little bit towards the shore or further out into the water. It feels like we're still, but we notice something that we notice change that we would not have been able to notice had we not been still. If we were trying to get down the rapids, we wouldn't notice those things. But when we're still, we're able to, we have a clarity that enables us to notice that which we might have not seen before. Really, really a great comment. Thank you for that. The sound of rushing water awakened moments of waking to a broken water pipe. Sorry about that. I was a little concerned that the sound of rushing water might be activating in some way. So I hope people could tune that out if that was not helpful. Um, mm. So we see all these associations that come up. Um, you know, rushing water reminds us of broken water pipes or floods or this or that. And I guess we can just notice, where the mind is going with that and come back to simply the sensation or the sound, whatever is available to us, of rushing water. Thank you for that. Yes, I also probably should have warned people to take a visit to the loo before we went there. Thank you for that. Um, thank you, Amy. Also, that's a great observation about Esther putting on her majesty before going to appear before the king, a dangerous and brave move that's beautiful. Sharon and Mike, I'm going to take a look at that. Oh, that link, by the way, does not work anymore, Sharon and Mike, so please check it out. Let us know. I see from the title that we should synchronize with the sea, which is essentially what we were trying to do today. And we are 80% water, maybe more than 80% water. Lori's asking, can you speak to the role of faith in times of uncertainty and surrendering our Zuri Netzach responses to instead of be quiet and still like a clear, still lake? Thanks. The role of faith in surrendering that energy. So that's that's a good, really good, another really good question. Thank you, Lori, for that. In times of uncertainty, when we might feel like we got to do something, and in fact, we do need to do something. And that's what that Netzach and Zurizut energy is available to do, to respond to uncertainty or difficulties or that which is problematic or in need of healing or repair. We do have that energy available. And at the same time, we also need to be able to um, ground that action in that stillness, right? In the non-reactivity, in the place of non-reactivity. So in this way, we don't just, we're not like jerking from we're going through one stretch of the water at a time, but they all live at the same time. So I think the lesson may be there, two lessons. One may be that as we see where we need to respond through action or words or communication, that we can ground that action in Hod, in the place of non-reactivity, from a place of gratitude and fullness rather than out of out of anxiety and fear. So that's one way of thinking about it. But you asked about faith. And so there too, I think there's a role, another piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole answer. Just one piece of the puzzle is, I'd say, bitachon, trust, that when we sit on the still lake and we're not going anywhere, and I'm not a sailor, maybe some of you like to sail, when there's no wind, there's nothing to move us, and we're far from home, and we need to go, we have this anxiety, or we're enjoying ourselves, but we think, well, how am I going to get home from here? That question of, well, how are we going to deal with this if I just sit here? Is this sense of awareness that there's something greater than me or us that is moving things towards change, just as we noticed a few moments ago, that it's not only up to us, but that there's movement and unfolding that is happening. And I don't know about you, for me, there's some reassurance in that. That lowers the anxiety a little bit and increases the level of bitachon, of trust, or if you prefer, faith, that it's not only up to us, but there's also something at work in the universe that is moving and in support of that action. We notice that there's still energy happening. There's not nothing happening. Okay. Thanks, Lori. Glad you like that. Okay. Thank you, Sharon and Mike. We'll look for that. All right, folks, we'll end it here. Wonderful to share both the trip down the Whitewater, and also just to spend a few moments sitting together with you on that still lake. And I hope that both of those will stay with you as we transition from the week of Netzach into the week of Hod tonight. So many blessings to you all. Thanks to Harry. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you tomorrow to practice with Sam Feinsmith, everyone. Stay well.